outside. I had to close the blinds though, but don't worry. After our little blinds mishap last video, I closed the blinds ahead of time. Can you believe it? Luke is on it today, you guys. Absolutely on it. All right, let me pull up the chat so that I can answer anyone's questions as they come in here. Okay, here we go. I've gotten a little bit better at this system last couple of days. Okay, top chat. Here we go. Okay. Hope you guys like my Christmas tree. My big, beautiful Christmas tree that I got for my family. Did not cut it down with my bare hands, though. I went to the hardware store and bought it at the hardware store. Mostly because my wife had a gift card. And if you have a gift card, you might as well use it on your Christmas tree, right? But, yeah, hopefully we'll get some more viewers and some questions rolling in, okay? Let's see. Update on my healing program. I got my first vertical pop in my neck. So I know I pop my neck in a lot of these videos. I don't really recommend popping your neck in the way that I do, but I do it. You know, popping your body is very, very important, right? And so your joints, you know, as you meditate and you heal and you gather more energy into your body, energy gets stuck in the joints. You know, because the joints are part of the structural system that the energy has to flow through, right? And because joints are locked, you know, the way they are, they're a point of tension. And so tension can get, you know, tension energy gets locked in the joints. And then popping the joints to release that tension is very important, not only for the structure, but also for the energetic aspects of the body. And really the both are very intertwined, okay? Nope, not gonna do it. But so 2 nights ago, I meditated for about like 45 minutes before I went to sleep, and typically what can happen is as you meditate, you know, and you're forcing a lot of energy downwards, you'll feel the energy go to certain places, and it might get stuck in certain places. It might heat up certain places to heal it, and a lot of energy built in my neck, you know, because my neck has been it's been having to do a lot of straightening, if that makes sense. You know, most people's heads are too far forward, and then they have a lot of scar tissue right here in the back of the neck because their heads are too far forward. And you can see a lot of people have a hump here, okay? So a goal of healing, right, is improving posture. And for most people's posture to improve, you know, the neck has to heal. That scar tissue has to be broken up. There's usually calcium deposits as well, and the neck has to come back more, and then the neck becomes more vertical, okay? Because your head should be sitting right above your shoulders, okay? So most people's chins aren't tucked enough, okay? It's a very common problem. Part of it is the sickness of the bodies. Part of it is also because we're sitting in front of computer screens and then we're hunched over like this at our computer chairs, right? We're not walking enough with a good posture and stuff like that. So anyways, I was meditating, about 45 minutes, a lot of energy was building in my neck, and then I went to sleep. Woke up about like 2 in the morning with a lot of energy moving through my body. I've had a couple experiences like this where I just wake up in the middle of the night with a lot of energy, downwards moving energy moving through my body, almost like this. I don't know if I'd call it a trance, but it's pretty esoteric. And the energy built, and then I put my shoulders down like this, and then I made my head go like this, and I was able to pop my neck vertically. Released a lot of tension, felt very, very good. Probably the best pop I've ever had, to be honest. If you look on Dr. Wilson's website, it actually talks about this. It's called the, I forget what it's called. It's called the, it's some sort of neck pop. It's under like chiropractic. It's like in the same article he talks about like the spinal twist and stuff like that. And he mentioned, and he talks, it's actually a procedure. I think it's called the jolt, the neck jolt. And this is where while you're meditating, you force your shoulders down and then you extend your neck. That takes some practice, but I got a really good pop vertically. And so yeah, lots of healing in my neck area. It's been very, very good for me. But specifically, in this video, I want to talk about truth, how to discern truth, and some of the many lies that we're taught today. And people make the misconception, I think, that we're like lies happen because of ignorance, when a lot of lies are taught to us on purpose in order to control us, right? And so when you watch the news or something like that, or you read something on the internet and they're telling you a lie, you have to realize that most of the time it's not out of ignorance, right? It's not like you're watching the news and the news is just wrong because the people are stupid. The people, the lies are being told to you in order to control you and manipulate you on purpose as part of a bigger power structure. It's not as innocent as many people think it is, right? It's designed. And so the people on the news are being told by their owners, by the people that run the company, to run a certain narrative, right? It's not just that all of these different sources of information are just, they just don't know. They do know. They actually do know what the truth is. They're just telling you a lie on purpose in order to manipulate you. We see many common ones, okay? You can go all the way from health-related stuff, financial-related stuff. Financial-related stuff is a very common one today. One lie that they teach you is that inflation is good and deflation is bad. This is not true, okay? So because of the way our money system is set up, they teach us that it's good if your money goes down in value every year, okay? And this is wrong think, okay? It's actually backwards thinking. And it's the way many people are taught to think today, when in reality the truth is the opposite, okay? In reality, you want deflation, okay? Because think about this: if you're making money and you're making the same amount of money every year, but every year the worth of the money that you're making goes down in value, and relative to other things, that means that your dollar can buy less, right? So if you're buying a refrigerator or whatever, that refrigerator basically becomes more expensive in regards to dollars every year. And so you have to make more of the dollars in order to purchase the good, okay? Of course, things also become cheaper because of efficiencies, right? We've gotten much better at manufacturing. And so sometimes we, in modern society, we don't realize inflation is happening because of more efficiencies in the marketplace, mostly through manufacturing, okay? So, we've got, like, going back to like a refrigerator, right? We've gotten much better at manufacturing computer chips and refrigerators and all these sorts of goods, partially through cheap labor, like in China, and also through robotics, right? We have robots basically manufacturing a lot of stuff now, and this increases efficiencies of manufacturing, which makes things cheaper. But people don't realize that their money is going down in value at the same time, okay? In reality, you want deflation. You want your money to go up in value, right? Because in deflation, that means things that you want to buy are going down in price compared to the money that you're earning. So if you're making the same amount of money, but the money is going up in value relative to the things that you want to buy, how is that a bad thing? How is being able to buy more things with less dollars a bad thing? Yet they teach us that deflation is bad and inflation is good. It's reverse thinking, okay? And this reverse thinking is very, very common in our society, and they trick people into it on purpose, right? Other things with money, for example, would be that money is bad. Rich people are bad. Being scared of money. Rich people are why you are poor. Okay, these are also lies. Okay, they teach us many lies about things with the earth, right? They teach us the earth is dying, and that if we don't stop using oil and coal, the earth is going to die. Okay, and then this scares you, right? And so because you're scared that the earth is dying, so you're in a constant state of fear. Okay, fear is the opposite of love, right? Being in a fearful state is the opposite of being in a loveful state. Okay, so they want you in a fear state. Okay, so you're walking around with this constant fear of everyone dying because the earth is dying. Okay, you also become scared to use the resources that are available, because if you use the resources that are available to you here on earth, that will contribute towards the earth dying faster, they teach you. Okay, this is a very common lie they teach. They teach you lies about vaccinations. They teach you lies about the banking system. How many people do you know actually understand what the Federal Reserve is, which is where our money supply comes from here in the United States? Okay. Very, very few people actually understand where our money comes from, what the Federal Reserve actually is, what its structure is, how it prints money, how it makes the currency, and what its role is. Okay. Very, very, very few people understand who owns the Federal Reserve. Okay, who's in charge of it, right? Very few people understand that it's not a part of our government, that the government has no actual direct oversight of the Federal Reserve, okay? Except that the president gets to anoint the chairman of the Federal Reserve. But is the chairman, really who controls the Federal Reserve? We don't know. And so very, very few people also understand the power structures of our government. Okay, the same is true with the Federal Reserve. It's also true with the CIA. It's true with the NSA, the FBI, all these massive government entities that are part of our government. Okay, very, very few people actually understand the power structure, right? Let me mute my computer here. There we go. And so we have to learn to discern truth. The internet helps a lot, although the internet can be manipulated too. Probably one of my favorite places to find truth is just like internet forums. You know what I mean? That aren't usually populated, but there are a lot of people that come together to try to find out the truth. Also, you have to heal yourself, and you have to do the pushing down exercise. Okay, because the pushing down exercise, remember, doing the pushing down exercise is truth. Okay, it is truth. So when you do the pushing down exercise, you are literally moving truth into your body. Okay, so if you're learning how to move truth through you, what is a better way to learn how to discern the truth? There is no better way to learn how to discern the truth except by actually learning how to access truth, right? And this also plays into healing the body, balancing the minerals, balancing your zinc and copper levels, etc., etc. But most importantly is still doing the pushing down exercise, right? Because if you're moving the truth through you, then you begin to understand what the truth feels like intuitively, okay? The truth, for the most part, isn't, now you should use your logical brain and stuff like that, but it's also an intuitive process. This is a great secret, that every human being on Earth has an innate intuitive ability to tune to the truth, okay? As a frequency, okay? So you imagine like a radio wave, you imagine a light wave, right? The truth is also a you can tune your antenna, right? So on the radio, you're trying to find an AM station, you go and you search the frequencies and all the different AM channels, they're different frequencies, and you're trying to find the frequency that your radio can tune to. The same is true with the truth. And your brain is like an antenna, okay? And it can pick up the frequency of truth, okay? This is a great secret that they don't teach you, is that all human beings have this capability. And so one mistake that we make in modern society, because it's so secular nowadays, is that we learn to use our logical brains in some regards too much and to trust people or sources that seem to be playing towards our logical side, right? But in reality, they're just manipulating the logic, right? It's like backwards logic. It's double logic, okay? This is true if you go to read if you go read studies. So like you'll see like on social media blow up, right? Or on the controlled news websites, they'll say like new study says that global warming is accelerating or something like that, right? And so the logical part of the brain says, oh, these scientists are doing a study and they're scientists, and you've been brainwashed to think that scientists are the purveyors of truth, and so you just believe it, right? Because it appeals to your logical side in some aspects, right? But if you go actually to the study and then you read the study, then you find hundreds of holes in it, right? It's not even a real study, right? They didn't even do like a real study. And the study has many holes in it, and it doesn't actually really prove anything. Okay, but how many people in our society understand how to read a scientific study? Not very many people, right? Most people will have to go to, they'd have to be doing pre-med or something like that, or they'd have to be taking some sort of biology or chemistry class in higher education to understand how to actually read a study. And most people's brains don't even work well enough to be taught how to actually logically follow through and understand how to dissect a scientific study to see if it's actually replicable and if it's actually pointing towards something, right? And so what happens to like many of the young people today is they read, oh, on the Washington Post or CNN or something, they read something that says, oh, study proves, or scientists say, or science proves, okay, but they don't go any farther, right? Their mind's already turned on to, oh, the scientists say this, it must be truth, right? But they don't actually understand the science itself. And so that's actually one reason why understanding the very, very fundamentals of everything is so important, knowing the basics, right? Because if you didn't know the basics of science or how a peer-reviewed study works, how would you be able to backtrack and look at the study and see that it's basically full of shit, right? And that the study that they mentioned isn't really proving anything, right? You'd have to actually understand how to decipher a study and things like that. And so it can be very difficult for many people, okay? And they learn to actually get what they think is the truth from sources that are feeding them lies, okay? So appealing to logic, it can be difficult sometimes, but it's much better. It's a shortcut basically to intuitively feel the truth, right? If I'm reading a news article, and of course you gotta use your logical mind, but you can combine the two, okay? But you also get a feeling that this article is telling you a lie. The frequency of truth is telling you that it's a lie. But that's very, very efficient, right? Because you don't even have to go through, read the study or do anything like that. You already feel inside of you that it is a lie, okay? Now, sometimes your feelings can betray you. That's why you have to use both, right? But in our society, there's definitely an overemphasis on logic, especially when the logic that people are being fed isn't really logic. And it's a lie, okay? So they appeal to the logic. So what they really do is they appeal to the logic side of us, and in some ways they appeal to the emotional side too, right? Well, they talk about the earth is dying, babies are dying, etc., right? And learning how to decipher the truth is very, very important at this time in society, okay? So, sources of truth that I like, Drudge Report used to be better. I like Drudge Report. I like certain parts of Reddit. Reddit can be difficult though, with some things. I would mostly get my information from the internet at this time, okay? Unless you have access to like the America First News Network, I think is a pretty good one on cable. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to find the truth nowadays, okay? And so, question everything, okay, you guys? It's very important that we learn to question everything in today's age, because there's so many lies and there's so much, and it's hard to find the truth because there's so much access to information, right? I mean, just think how much information we have on the internet. And if you don't know how to decipher what's truth or what's not, how could you, most people, it's like, what can you even do? There's just so much information on the internet. Like in regards to diet, right? You can go to one website that's telling you that meat is evil and that all you should eat is raw fruit and water, basically. I watched a video a couple weeks ago where apparently a new thing is all you should eat is meat. And then the guy was saying that water dehydrates you. And this guy has tens of thousands of YouTube subscribers. I think he had almost 100,000 YouTube subscribers. And he was telling the subscribers that all you should eat is meat and that water dehydrates you. It's like, and then you go to another YouTube channel, right? And it's these people, all they eat is fruit. They feed their dogs fruit. And all they do is they talk about how healthy they are because all they eat is fruit, and all God meant for us to eat is fruit because we're like gorillas and apes. And so they just basically just eat like fruit smoothies, and they even give like the fruit to their dogs, and they just basically all they eat is like fruit. Fruitarian is what they call it, I think. There's vegans, and then there's the paleo people. And then, like, if you don't know how to discern the truth, who are you going to believe? How would you possibly know? There's so much conflicting information, right? There's so much conflicting information in our society at this time on the internet, okay? So you have to learn how to discern it, how to discern the truth, or else you'll get so mixed up and you'll get so confused. And you might ruin yourself forever. Because many people, they find the wrong source of information and they believe it, and then it ruins their life before they realize the truth. The same thing happens with fruitarians. They go on the internet, they see all these supposedly healthy pictures of people that are so happy and healthy because all they eat is fruit. And so they do it for a few years, and then they basically just destroy their health, and they're never the same again. They can never think clearly again, and they can never get back on the right track because they're too far removed from it. And that's very, very dangerous. You have to realize that the farther you become removed from the truth, the harder it is to get back to the truth. Okay? And this is true with health, it's true, and it's true with truth. True with truth. And the same is true with health, right? The farther you get away from being healthy, the harder it is to get healthy again. That's why it's so much easier to heal children, you guys. That's why the children heal so much faster using nutritional balancing science, or young people, why they heal so much faster. It's because they have more energy to work with, and they're not as far as removed from being healthy. If you take someone that's 70 years old, and they've been unhealthy their whole lives, and they've been eating terrible food their whole lives, and they've been sick for 30 years, that person is much farther removed from being healthy, and it's much, much more difficult to get them back towards being healthy, right? This is true with a lot of things, like with money, for example. If you're in debt, you're farther away from financial freedom the farther you are in debt. And it's harder and harder to get back to financial freedom, right? If I start off and I'm $1 million in debt, is that harder to get back to being financially free than if I started with $0? And so you can go into, it's like negative territory, right? So the same true with anything. The hardest part is the beginning, and it's harder the farther you are removed from where you should be, right? So like going back to the money example, the hardest part is the beginning, right? The hardest part is is building money to the point where it builds upon itself, right? It's like the law of compound interest, right? It's much more difficult to make your first $1 million than it is to make than turn 1 million into 2 million. You know what I mean? The first million is the hardest, right? Once you have $1 million, you can leverage it in certain ways, and it becomes easier to make money, right? A saying is it takes money to make money. Okay, but if you start out, you're $1 million in debt, and so that's one reason why there's so much financial strife in America and all the Western societies. We're all born in debt. You're born into debt to the people, and you are born. Am I back? Okay, we're back. And how you pay for it is through inflation. Inflation is interest. Okay, they print the money, and then you pay interest back to this private corporation that owns your money supply. It's not even part of the government that you voted on, and it takes away from your wealth, right? Very, very sad state of affairs, right? And so, you have to learn how to decipher the truth, or else you'll become very, very confused. And same thing with health, right? And like I said, the farther you are from the mean, the farther you away from how you're supposed to be, the harder it is to get back. Right, and so you've been eating fruitarian for 20 years, and you're 60 years old now. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to heal your body. Okay, whereas if you are a child and you go in a program and you're only 3 years old, the children are sick, but they still have a lot of energy to work with. Okay, and so And with your nutritional balancing program, it's the same thing with, like with money, right? The hardest part is the beginning. People usually have their worst detox in the first few years, okay? Whether it be physically, emotionally, et cetera, et cetera. People usually have their worst retracings in the early part of the program, especially in regards to things like breakdown of the ego and stuff like that. Now, I would still retrace bad infections, but I mean, I'm in a healthy state of mind, so I understand it's an infection. I rest for a week or two and I move through it, right? But many people suffer some sort of ego breakdown, especially young men, their first couple of years of the program. But that's the hardest part, right? And it's the hardest part because I've told you guys this. The esoteric parts of the program are the most difficult for people to retrace. You can retrace a sinus infection, big deal. You're sick for a few weeks. But what happens when you retrace that you've basically been thinking wrong your whole life, and that you're not who you thought you were, and that everything you were taught was a lie, and everything you think was true is not true, okay? That's a huge mental shock. That's a huge, huge mental shock, okay? That's actually the hardest part for the program for people. The hardest part of the program is not eating vegetables. The hardest part of the program is not eating meat. The hardest part of the program is not going to bed early. The hardest part of the program is perhaps retracing the fact that everything you taught was a lie, and that you're not who you think you were, and that you're probably stupider than you think you are. You probably can't think as clearly as you thought you could, and that's definitely the most difficult part of the program. Okay, I know this because I've helped people move through it. You know, I know this because I've helped people move through it, especially young men. I get a lot of young male clients because I'm a young male making YouTube videos, and that ego breakdown is very, very, very difficult for them. Part of it has to do with men, the differences between men and women. And men tend to, in our society especially, men tend to mature slower, okay? For various reasons. I'll probably make a video, maybe I'll make a video on this tomorrow or something. I'll make a video on the differences on why men mature slower than women, okay? It has to do with physical traits and a few other things. Part of it is also like esoteric, okay? Doesn't mean it's not true though. Okay. Okay. CRM Sanders says, I love your Christmas tree. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the Christmas tree. I bought it from a hardware store. I usually go cut one myself, but we bought this one from from a hardware store. We decked it out pretty nicely this year. All right, guys. Well, I think that ends the video. I don't really have any questions to answer on this channel. I mean, on this video. Usually we have more questions by now, but not many questions. But so I want to encourage you guys to always question everything. Try to find the truth, and don't forget to move energy downwards through the body. And that way you can act. If you learn to do that, and you learn to. All right. Well, we got a few questions. We'll answer a few questions first. All right. How did you get into nutritional program? Well, I was pretty brain foggy at the time. I was working at a health club. I was about 22 years old. I was lifting weights like 3 or 4 times a week. You know, I was pretty fit. You know, I had more muscle actually than I do now. I could do like I was doing like I could do 10 This is a pull-up. I could do 10 pull-ups in a row with a 45-pound weight dumbbell in between my legs, and I could deadlift a lot of weight too. And so I was pretty foggy. I got brain fog basically. I didn't know what was causing it. So I started using the sauna because I noticed I always enjoyed the sauna at the health club I worked at. And then I noticed that when I used the sauna, my brain fog would go away. And it was the only time in the day that I didn't have brain fog and I could really think clearly was like a half hour after the sauna, like cleared my brain. And so I started researching sauna therapy, and then I came upon Dr. Wilson's website. And then I immediately basically felt intuitively it was the truth. I could feel myself healing on the program when I had started it, and then I just went down the rabbit hole from there. Can you talk about ADD in boys? Yeah, ADD, the first thing I want to say about ADD is that it's all relative. You know, there's no threshold, right? There's no threshold for autism. There's no threshold for ADD. And so there's only like a spectrum, right? Your kid, there's like perfection, and then there's like, you can get closer and closer to what we would call ADD. So one thing that annoys me is like there's no threshold for like ADD? It's like, what point does your child have ADD? Like, he's a little bit hyper and he can't, you know, most little boys are a little bit hyper anyway, and they have a hard time paying attention in school and sitting down. At what point do you draw the line and say the kid has ADD? And so I think it's important to change the whole mindset over like how we gauge where people are at health wise. It's like just saying your kid has ADD. I mean, is just very vague, and there's no specific sort of thing to tell you where the child's really at health wise. Basically, you know, all the children are sick and depleted, and they all need a program. And then the only thing is that some children are so sick and depleted, they're closer to what we would call ADD. I think that's the best way to think about it, right? And then, you know, you can have mild ADD, you can have moderate ADD, you can have extreme ADD. And then what's the difference between ADD and autism? I mean, really, you can basically say really bad ADD is autism, right? And then there's all sorts of different autistic spectrums, right? What's the difference between autism and Asperger's? It's like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit ADD, a little bit autistic, a little bit Asperger's, or, you know, and then there's a million different sort of things they can label it. Okay, it's like you come up with a million labels. That's what I'm saying. Okay, the only thing is that you know, using the hair analysis is it's hard for me to even relate to using something like ADD, because using the hair analysis is so much more scientific and so much more specific and so much more dialed in. You know, saying your child has a low NAK ratio to me makes so much more logical and scientific, intuitive sense than saying, oh, your child is ADD or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like there's no way to calibrate ADD, really. It's like, how are you going to calibrate it? But this problem with ADD in boys is the same with all the different, you know, most boys, they lack zinc, too much copper, they have other toxic metals, they're burnt out from their burnt out mothers. Part of it is the school system too. You know, some boys get labeled with ADD and they don't really have anything wrong with them. They're just, you know, they have a lot of energy and they're little boys and they want to go out and play and they don't want to sit in a desk for 8 hours learning stupid things. That's how I feel about that. Do you think the world will heal? Are we moving forward? Well, we're always moving forward. You know, you can't go back in time as far as I know. I mean, maybe you can go back in time using time machines. I don't think you can go back in time. I don't think, intuitively, like, going back in time doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that you can, like, people talk about how we might get visited from, like, advanced civilizations or something, or people in the future going back in time. I don't think you could go back in time. So we're always moving forward. So yeah, the Earth's moving forward. Do you think the world will heal? I do think that the world will heal. I think it is healing currently. And if you do the pushing down exercise, you are helping to heal the world. Okay? That's an important thing, right? That's why the Earth lets human beings exist on the planet. Human beings exist on the planet in order to do the pushing down exercise because that helps bring energy to the Earth, right? If human beings bring energy from the heavens to the Earth, that makes the Earth happy. That's actually the main reason why Earth's a living being. And that's why it allows human beings to live on it, so they can do the pushing down exercise and help the Earth. Okay. We could talk about Ascension. Well, Ascension is a very, very slow process. It's a lot slower and more methodical than people think it is. Most people think that you can ascend, like you do mushrooms one time, and then you have a sort of breakthrough experience, and then you're ascended, you know what I mean? Or you do ayahuasca or DMT or whatever, acid or whatever. That's true to an extent. You know, some people do have magnificent experiences on drugs. I've used drugs in the past, and I had some good experiences, some good spiritual experiences going inside myself on mushrooms, you know. Yeah, I tell you guys everything. I'll tell you guys I've done mushrooms before. But really, in reality, it's much more methodical and day by day, right? It's not really the sort of one-off experience where you can do something once and all of a sudden you're ascended. Ascension is just doing the pushing down exercise every day, doing your coffee enemas, eating cleanly, being of service, and then you slowly ascend. And there's no, like, ascension, it depends actually what you think by mean by ascension. For the most part, there's no true ascension. Like, you never get there. There's no, like, there's no end point. It's like, oh, now I'm ascended. In reality, there's only the process. There's only development. Okay, you never reach the end goal of development. You're either developing or you're not. You're either moving forward or you're not. There's no, sort of, oh, I'm there now. You'll never get there. There is an illusion. How did you know that your spouse was the one? How do males feel when they meet their future spouse? I think sometimes males, especially, there's different kinds of love, right? And so I think sometimes males, they confuse lust with love, okay? And so many men, if they meet a young, attractive woman on the street or something, they feel lots of chemicals, right? And they might feel like their heart chakra, right? And things like that, and they might confuse that for real love. Real love's more grounded. It's more like a masculine sort of thing, and it's like a slower sort of process. And like with my partner, I would say like I knew that. I don't think I would say that I knew she was the one per se. Like it's like sometimes we like over romanticize it, right? It's like, oh, I met my wife, and then oh, it just dinged, and and our eyes made contact, and I knew she was the one. And men really fall into that trap, right? When instead of falling, when it more so men should. It should be like more of, I think more of like a logical process. Like, is this woman into the same things I'm into? Does she want the same things I want? Will she heal with me? Is she are like our hobbies compatible? Et cetera, et cetera. And then, you kind of learn to love the person more, even if there wasn't as much infatuation in the beginning. I think sometimes men, especially, they fall into infatuation with the women. They just smell them, they see them, and then the woman might have like a beautiful body or, something like a pretty smile, and then they confuse that with like long-lasting sort of intimacy, right? Marriage is more like a partnership. It's more like, we're on this goal together, and we're gonna come together because we can move towards the goal faster and better if we come together. Because in some ways, it's more efficient if men and women come together, right? Because they have certain roles, and so the man doesn't have to be both roles, and the woman doesn't have to be both roles. They each fulfill their role, and that can make the household more efficient in a lot of ways. But it's hard. It's a tricky thing for sure. What do you think about how rutabagas have similar mineral ratios to limcommon? That's fascinating. I did not know that, Camila. I don't know. I did not know that actually. How do you know that? My question to you is, how do you know that? Did you look at like did they measure the minerals in a rutabaga somewhere, and then you looked at them and you compared it to limcommon? That's pretty fascinating that you did that. That's pretty smart of you. Oh, you checked on. Oh, so you checked on it, and then you went to the limcommon and you looked at their. That's interesting. Well, that's good. If you have a low NAK ratio, eat lots of rutabagas, right? Rutabagas are a very, very good vegetable. They're one of our favorite ones. My favorite way to eat rutabagas is you cook them, and then you mash them, and you make like mashed potatoes, but it's mashed rutabaga. I can't even tell the difference. Well, the texture is a little bit different. The taste is a little bit different, but it's very similar. If you guys want to try that, just basically make it like you're making mashed potatoes, but use rutabaga. It's a lot healthier too. Rutabagas are a lot healthier than white potatoes. White potatoes are not very healthy. They're not as nutrient dense as other vegetables. They're more inflammatory, and technically they're not even a vegetable. Okay, any other questions we got? All right, guys. Well, I enjoyed the questions that I got. Hope you guys have a beautiful weekend and you're enjoying the holidays. Yeah, be careful of the sorts of information you get out there and learn how to decipher the truth. Oh, be merry, be happy, and I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye.